Now introducing the Minor Wisdom Trio!
Minor Wisdom!
My apologies to all my fan for releasing this late today. This is kind of one of the first times that I've recorded and then just released. I've done it before, but it's like, I think the second time maybe. So anyway, it is Sunday. I'm recording this on Sunday after Texas Thespian Festival, which in my mind was a success. This was the busiest I have ever been for Texas Thespian Festival. Thursday and Friday, and I got there Wednesday night, but Thursday and Friday were very busy for me. As a board member, I opened my big mouth and said, where can I help? And then I was busy. Saturday, I didn't do too much. It's not really my board. I'm not on the state festival board. I'm on the educator board. So just doing some stuff was not that we're not going to help each other out, but I didn't know what the drill was. I wasn't in those meetings and stuff. So I did what I could, but what I could do was a lot. So I was very grateful for the time there, very honored to be a board member. I thought it went off really well. I know there were some hiccups with the release, with going home. Even we, had to wait for some time, longer than our driver really wanted us to wait. It is what it is, but I had a good time. My students had a really great time. This was the first time my school had gone in probably a decade, almost a decade, if not longer, actually. And they killed it. I told my knot tying girl, you're not getting back on the bus unless you win. And we took her back. We took her on the bus because she won with in the knot tying part of the tech relay. So that was really cool. And then, of course, the coolest element was I, in 13 years, had never had a main stage performer. And Valentina, my girl, my dancer, taught her everything she knows. I choreographed her dance and everything. Just kidding. And she performed for the Blue closing ceremonies. It was amazing. I was so proud. I've been proud of tons of students, dozens and dozens of students during Texas Thespians, but this definitely takes a cake just to see one of your own up there just absolutely killing it, and then the crowd showing their appreciation for it and being the first dance main stage performance, because that has never been a category up until now. So I was so excited. It was really cool. I had a great time. We are, now ready for the holidays, and Thanksgiving is this week, and then we roll into the winter holidays and Hanukkah and Christmas, Kwanzaa. So, everything's going. My dogs are even going in the background. So, they're excited too, as they should be. I think Mom is cleaning the kennel for one of the dogs, and so I think he's getting a little excited about that, you know what I'm saying? This week I've got Adrian Gallardo on. Adrian's going to make a lot of you feel really bad about yourselves, because he is not only the principal of his school, but he's also the director for his theater department. He directs their one-act play. You're going to hear us talking about that, and he does quite a great job explaining his background. Within a little bit of it, I think 6-7 minutes in or whatever, he does, yeah, it was his fault the internet dropped. But anyway, no, the internet dropped on my end, and I figured out why it keeps doing that, but I had not figured out when I recorded this about 2 months ago with him. So it does you'll hear a little bit of spot of kind of weird choppiness, kind of like Max Headroom a little bit, but the rest of it is just fine. But it was really fun talking to him. Again, he just, we complain, theater teachers, a lot about how much work we have to do for one show, and Adrian is doing that. Plus, he's the principal of the school, so it's really neat. He's also the principal of his school, like it's the school he attended. So you're going to hear all that stuff. He talks about Dancer Texas, and I'm going to include a link to Dancer Texas in the description of this podcast, just so you guys can see it on IMDb. And he also, the UT Permian Basin stuff. I'm going to include a link to that because he does discuss that. So I really enjoyed this one just because it's unique. I don't know if I've talked to I can't remember. Now, I had a discussion with Tim Estelle where I asked him a question that I had asked him on the podcast and I had just forgotten. And Tim is easily one of the nicest people in the entire world. And he was just kind of forgave me because he's like, you've done almost 200 of these. I don't expect you to remember all of the details about every single interview. But I don't remember if I've ever had a principal on that is also the director of their one act play. So I know it's a thing. We all know it's a thing with the 1, 2, and even some 3A schools. So, but it's I've never talked to somebody that does that. So enough about that. Let's roll on. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. I hope everybody gets some rest after Texas Thespians. Those of you that went to San Antonio, I'd love to hear how that went for you. I heard mixed reviews, but I'd love to hear some more. T-Tech is right around the corner. I know it's crazy. It's less than 2 months away in Rockwall, Texas, up north near Dallas. I would love to see everybody there. I will be there. That's my bye-bye. We are scheduling workshops next week, pretty much. We're going to kind of flush that out and get everything ready for that. And so I'd love to see you guys at T-Tech. I appreciate all the support. Saw a few people wearing Minor Wisdom shirts at Texas Thespians. That was kind of cool. I mean, it's flattering. Imposter syndrome a little bit. I shouldn't be doing this stuff for all 5 of you. But anyway, I appreciate all the support. Hey, buy a shirt. I'm going to include that link too. Leave a 5-star review. I apologize for this intro being kind of mundane and boring. I'm tired. I'm just tired. Anyway, have a great week. Have a great Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I will be back as soon as I can be. I don't have anybody in the can. This is the last interview that I've had over the last 2 months, so I'm going to be reaching out to people. But this week might not be the best week to get interviews, so I will see you when I see you. Hopefully it's very soon. Have a great one, everybody. Bye.
I'm the principal and one of the theater directors over at Rankin High School. I am a product of rural schools and one act play. I graduated from Rankin in 1996. I was here for the majority of my years as a student. I lived in what was called a gas camp in the middle of farmland about 38 miles northeast of here. So I rode the bus 38 miles one way and then 38 miles back every day. And that a gas camp was a place next to a huge gas plant, and all the houses were the same. It was all, it had its own little golf course that surrounded it and everything. So it was a very suburban type of environment in the middle of nowhere, essentially. I did one act play all 4 years of high school. I loved it even when we didn't advance. We usually were the first to perform, and in our district for the first couple of years, there were 6 or 7 shows. So I always got to watch shows after we performed, and that was my first sort of awesome moment of just loving theater, some of the shows that I saw there. Then my junior year, maybe, we went to regionals, and I got to watch the regional shows there, and that really took it up another notch because I saw a high quality of acting and spectacle that was just amazing back then, and it made me fall in love with theater even more. When I graduated, I ended up getting a couple of scholarships to UT Permian Basin. They didn't offer theater as anything other than a minor, and it wasn't something that I thought was possible for someone from a school that was my size. So I never took any theater classes when I started there. Finally, in the summer of 2001, which I graduated in the spring of 2002, I needed to take my fine arts class for my gen ed requirement. I also needed an upper level elective as opposed to a lower level elective. So I saw that there was a production class available that would count towards that gen ed requirement, and I signed up for it. I really didn't know what was going to be going on in that, but I essentially worked as a stagehand and wound up loving the people I worked with. The professor was Dr. Shawn Watson. She did a lot of dramatic lit, but she also did the shows in that small, essentially black box theater that we had there at UTBB. From that point forward, I continued to work on shows at UTBB whenever I was available, mostly doing either lighting design or just general tech, or both more often than not. Dr. Watson opened up my eyes to a world of theater that I never really knew existed. She taught me, like I said, dramatic lit and theater history as well. So she introduced me to plays that we worked on, such as Wit and How I Learned to Drive and Real Women Have Curves, shows like that, that were just great shows to work on and a great cast to work on. She also gave me the tools to access so many other plays through my minority playwrights. And so that pushed me to go back after finishing my undergrad degree and start working on a master's in English, primarily focusing on dramatic lit. However, I never got to finish that degree because one night I was working for the city of Odessa in their billing and collection department. And I went home, and my wife, Lydia, and I had a discussion about where we were at in terms of our path in life and where we wanted to go. So she actually put teaching into my head, or really, she made me think that it was okay to want to be a teacher. So we got onto the Region 18 website and saw an English/theater job at a place called Valentine. I had to look it up, even though it was in the region that we were technically part of. So um, she pushed me to go ahead and apply, even though I didn't have my certificate or anything like that. My undergrad degree was actually in sociology and criminology. I filled out the application thinking I wouldn't even get a call. That afternoon, my phone rang. The superintendent, Glenn, who his name was Glenn Nix, and I visited over the phone for a few minutes. Then he asked me to come for an interview. So one Saturday morning, that 3-hour drive to and through the Fort Davis Mountains, which Valentine is actually one of the smallest districts, if not the smallest school district in Texas. I was offered the job, and that was the start of a feel for the area, and so Valentine was the start of my career. It's a very small town, less than 200 people live there, and it's actually probably the smallest school district in the state. Definitely one of them, if not the smallest. If you ever want to get a feel of the area and to a degree, a feel for the people in the area, I would suggest watching a movie called Dancer, Texas. A lot of the movie was filmed a few miles outside of Valentine and in Fort Davis, which is in the same county as Valentine. My wife and I love the school and the people so much, that we get excited now whenever we see them at a competition, because they are in our by district, and of course they're in our region when we go to academic competitions. Unfortunately, my wife didn't work in education, and she couldn't find work in that remote of an area. So she found a job back in Odessa, and I took a job at Midland High, which prior to Deb Shaw being there, who's done so much awesome things for the fine arts in Midland ISD. This was my first experience in a large school, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah, there were challenges that I had never experienced, but I was a second year teacher, so I was still going with the flow and trying to stay alive. A few weeks after the year ended, I received a call from the superintendent at Rankin. Tina Gray had been the counselor when I was a student. She knew I was teaching theater, and they needed an all-level fine arts teacher. So I was offered the job to teach a theater from pre-K through high school. However, I didn't take it at first. I hesitated before coming home to Rankin, and Lydia, who also graduated from Rankin, was very resistant to returning. In the end, I decided that I needed to come back so kids like me could have speech, debate, and theater, is what it amounted to. Lydia agreed to give it a try for the same reason. She didn't start working at the school until my third or fourth year here. She commuted 60 miles back and forth to Odessa every day instead. My first year in Rankin, I had 5 girls show up to auditions with no interest in techies. We did the effective gamma rays on Man in the Moon marigolds that year. I had to have the girls recruit their boyfriends and other football players a few weeks before the contest so we could have a crew that could carry everything on stage. We didn't advance that year, but I had 2 very ambitious girls who turned into leaders the next year. That second year in Rankin was my first show to advance to the regional level, and this time we had a show that had a full slate of actors and techies. A year or two later, I attended the Capitol Conference and sat in on one of Rick Garcia's workshops, and I was hooked. I attended one of the Maestro workshops a little later that summer, And I was amazed, and I also felt so small, not because anyone made me feel small, but because I was surrounded by greatness. My first maestro workshop had people who I still aspire to be. The instructors at the sessions were Renee Buchanan, Mandy Epley, and of course Rick Garcia. A few of the other people at that session included people like Kelly Martin, formerly of Hermely, Mandy Connor, J.J. Jonas, Glory McCluckey, and Cy Scroggins. And then there was little me over in the corner. And so um, I was just in awe most of the time that I was there. I had never been surrounded by so many great artists who were at a workshop to develop a competitive show and help each other be better at the same time. I was blessed by Maestro, and I'm still blessed by the group every time I go. It helped me set it. Maestro helped set me on a journey as a director that I'll forever be grateful for. It changed my approach to conceptualizing a show, to working with actors, and just approaching life in general. As for the other side of my educational journey, I received my master's in educational administration, I believe in 2013, 2014. In the fall of 2016, we needed a counselor. So I went back to school, and I was going to school at the same time I was the counselor. I served as the district counselor for 2 years and continued to direct theater at the junior high school level, as well as coach speech and debate with my wife, Lydia. In the fall of 2017, we moved into our new high school, and I became the principal of the 6 through 12 campus. Lydia and I continued to direct, but we passed the speech and debate reins on to someone else that year. Then in the fall of 2019, we added a third director, Tim Haynes. And if you don't know him, I'll say he's beyond a blessing, and that I still learn from him as well. Our team was complete with him. Our team as a director was complete with him. We found a groove, and it kicked up the quality of our program. Now we plan out our rehearsals and who's going to do what with what group of kids, and we see things differently. And I think that makes our shows better because we've been friends prior to him coming in, and we're not afraid to say, well, I don't think that makes sense, that doesn't read, or I don't understand that cross or that picture. As for where I am on my journey now, I feel happy with the road I've taken. I try to help small schools like us whenever I can. I feel like the program is here for students like me now. And now what I want to now I want to do everything I can to ensure the same is true at other schools. I know it seems like my head's in a little bit in the clouds with that, but that's why I believe in theater.
Cool. That was amazing. I mean, like, I kind of want everybody to do that now. Um, I'm not kidding. My apologies for the drop, but so I wrote down quite a few things. First of all, this is not a question, just an observation, but I think everybody thinks that when they're surrounded by theater educators, and I just led a session on this at TXCTA about imposter syndrome. You feel like you really don't belong where you are. And I think sometimes people are, that's an inaccurate thing for them, that's the whole reason for it. But man, at Maestro, when you just ratted off those names of the people that you were kind of surrounded by, that I feel like there are quite a few people. The majority of the people in this state would not belong in that room with that group. That's a that that's a Was that just coincidence? I mean, you had no idea who was going to be there, right?
No, I didn't. I showed up, and those were the people there, and that was when Maestro was still in pretty small groups. So
Yeah.
that was over half of that session.
That's incredible. I mean and I think most people listening to this know all of those names. I think everybody except for Cy has been on this podcast, but I'll get that fixed soon. Anyway, I gotta also ask. You mentioned this movie Dancer Texas, and I had never heard of it. I've looked it up. It's on IMDb. Dancer Texas, population 81. What can you speak on that? What is it about a little bit? Just give like the elevator trailer, I guess, on what the movie's about, because I've never heard of it.
So, Dancer, Texas is a movie about the largest class that's graduating from Dancer High School. It's five. It's got one girl and four boys. And the four boys, when they were about 12 or so, made a pact that they were going to hop on the first bus out of town after graduation and move to LA. And so the movie kind of revolves around that weekend between graduation and the bus actually getting there, and who's going to follow through, who doesn't, their fears and all of those elements.
Nice. Yeah, no spoilers. Because I might go back and watch this, but it's only an hour and a half long movie, so it kind of looks like, just from looking at the IMDb, kind of like what is that movie? I think it was in Texas as well. The Kevin Bacon was in it with the massive worms or whatever that were
Tremors.
Yeah, Tremors. Yeah,
Mhm.
it kind of has that feel. But so you have done something that I thought I was going to do, because I went back to school for an ME in administration, and then I interned for the 6A school that I was working at the time, and I fell out of love with the idea. Do you think, and you can speak for me, do you think if I had done that in a smaller setting, it would have been different, like in a 1 to 4A setting where you're not only dealing with behavior issues?
I definitely think that being in a smaller school, it is a little bit different. I still get to do theater, which is something that I love. I don't think well, I know that wouldn't be something I would be able to do if I were in a larger setting. So I still have the administrative side of me, and I still get to do the passionate side of me as well.
Yeah, it's you've kind of made me second guess the decision, because on the 6A level, when you have 6 or 7 other APs and some sort of administrative role, um, everybody has a different part, but they definitely don't get to direct a
No.
show. They can definitely help out, but it's you're turning your 50-hour weeks into 60-hour weeks, and etc. So. Um, how did being a counselor and being a classroom educator and all that, how did it get you ready to be a successful administrator?
I think that being a counselor, first of all, did open me up to listening on a higher level. It also helped me prepare for the academic side of counseling. So my counselor and I focus really, really heavily on building programs to make sure that our kids are prepared for post secondary education. And that's one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves in and do well is our CCMR here at Rankin.
How does your schedule look when you get into one act play season? Like, what is kind of a normal day for you when you put on both principal hat and director hat?
We do a fall show as well.
Oh,
So we
oh,
do a fall show,
okay.
and we also do junior high one act.
Okay,
So
okay.
so
So
we
how
so
does
the
your daily how does your daily life look?
well, we don't it we're all of our shows are after school, rehearsed after school. So on a day where we normally on Wednesdays, we'll go to school, and immediately after school we'll go into junior high rehearsal for about an hour and a half, and then have an hour break or so and jump right back into the high school rehearsal. So we have to switch gears really fast. And, junior high has to completely strike their set and high school has to set theirs so we can go into that rehearsal.
How do you like your coffee? Like, I mean, like,
I I have this is my coffee cup.
okay, all right.
This 24-ounce Yeti, and it is black.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be going through a lot of creamer if you didn't drink black coffee. So, I mean, that's incredible. It's you have to, I talk to a lot of people for this podcast, um, and it's starting to get close to 200
interviews, and I got to say, 9 out of 10 times, I'm always impressed with who I'm talking to, and I don't mean this to sound like you're, a saint of any sort, but I'm always impressed with the people I talk to and how they make the job look when you're not when I like I'm not in your shoes, and you make my job look much easier. And I know you are thinking to yourself, I do it because I love it, and that's the right answer. But it's fascinating to know that there are people like you out there that are doing what they absolutely love and doing it because of that reason. So that goes to I kind of had a follow up question before I got to patting you on the back a little bit, but when you are in rehearsal, or I guess vice versa, and I don't want you to name names, or you can talk about situations maybe, but do you ever have to switch hats real fast and say, whoa, 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 I know I'm the director right now, but you really shouldn't do that. Or the opposite, when you have a kid in your office, not necessarily behavioral, maybe it's grades or something, or they're just having an emotional day. Do you ever have to like figure out which version of you present to them?
Yes, I do, and I've even had to step away from rehearsals a couple of times to deal with an issue. I am fortunate, even though we are a 1A school, I do have an AP, and so she handles a lot of things for me, and we kind of help each other out. She is the head girls basketball coach, and she teaches an 8th grade math class. So I help her out in basketball season, trying to take on a lot of things, and then she turns around and tries to take a little bit more of the weight during one act season.
And as a 1A school, does that mean everybody knows you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, having come from here, yes.
Yeah. And so and I just talked to somebody a few days ago about do you ever get to grocery shop in peace? And they said, well, curbside has been a blessing for them.
Yes. Yes.
So that's funny. So you mentioned you grew up there, right? And you graduated from the school, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what does your closet look like? Like I just imagine that everything is related to just your upbringing and continued life in that spot. I mean, that's kind of tongue in cheek what I mean, by that. But I mean, it's just does it ever just dawn on you like this is pretty amazing that I was able to graduate from here and now I'm kind of running the ship?
It is. And I am I feel blessed
Yeah.
being here. I feel blessed to be in this district. This is a great district to work for. Like I said, I'm at a 1A school and I have an AP. We also have other people in other roles. So we help each other out a lot. And that's what gives me the availability to devote some of my time to one act still. Um, it I know it's not visible this, but my office I have a set of old blockers from our old high school that I had ripped out, and that's in here. I have a large devil head on my wall that an alumni gave to me whenever she retired as well. So I have I have a closet full of Rankin stuff.
Yeah, deep rooted for
Mhm.
sure. What is one of the things that has changed under your watch that you are very proud of? Not to say that something was bad or in bad shape or something like that, but what is something while you've kind of been steering the ship that has been an improvement that you're very proud of?
As an administrator,
Go with you know what you're a basketball coach. You're probably the swim coach. I mean, just choose anything that you're proud of that has had some improvement.
I think our course offerings
Okay.
has improved quite a bit, and that's for the benefit of the students. There are so many schools that are our size that just aren't able to offer the opportunities to their students, and that's something that I've been really proud of, that we've been able to work, we've been able to find ways to be a little bit innovative to make sure that our kids can do so many different things, and we get creative with the schedule so that our kids can participate in several different things, not just on the career side, but also just on the elective side.
Yeah.
We've introduced things like robotics for our students. We've been able to give our kids more time to do UIL focused type of courses and activities. And so scheduling has
Yeah.
been my funnest and one of the things I'm probably most proud of.
Is that a staffing thing for you? Is that like making sure that you have a teacher that is either certified or well-rounded in a variety of contents?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Pushing teachers who are interested in other areas to get certified. We have what's called a district of innovation plan, which kind of allows us to have a little bit of freedom. So it allows us to, if you are a theater teacher and you have a little bit of knowledge in floral design, it allows you to teach
Got it.
floral design without having to get certified in it,
Okay.
because you can do one outside of your area.
That's fun. See, I switched over from public school to the dark side in private school. And what you're describing is very similar to how private school education works with, you do not necessarily have to be this proven professional in a field, but sometimes the passion is what is enough to create a class. If you're going to teach up the kids pretty much and convince the kids that you are a believer in whatever it is that you are teaching, then no matter what that is, then you're typically given the ability to teach it. So that's kind of a neat thing for you. What is for one act play? Because that's what a lot of people want to
Right.
hear about, right? So, what is a show that you wish you could do that you don't think, and actually not just one act play. Let's talk about, because you said you do fall show too. So, what is a show, because you have just your base of kids is not a knock on talent, just you just don't have the numbers that a 6A has. So, what is a show that you know that you may never get to do, but you would love to try to do, if you ever get that type of number support?
Hmm. So as far as numbers go, we generally run with about 25 or so
Oh,
kids. We have a healthy audition, and that's been that way for 15 years now.
okay.
We've got a healthy group come out.
Yeah.
Um, I think, and our fall show is always a show that we do just to be inclusive and try to get everybody involved, and we even kind of use it as our OAP audition, a
Yeah.
component of that, to see if we have someone new, how are they going to handle the direction,
Yeah.
how committed are they going to be, things like that.
A
We use
training
that for
ground.
part of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of the shows that I can't do anymore because it's been removed from the list, that I would like to come back and have another shot at now that I am more mature, would be Shadowbox. Just because I did that so early on, and I did that with actors who just weren't experienced enough to commit to it, and we weren't successful with it. So there's that part of me that wants to see that be as successful as it could have been.
Do you guys ever take on musicals?
No,
No.
no,
No.
no.
Is that something like, so again, this is my own, being kind of naive to this. Do smaller schools sometimes combine, marry with other schools around the area? I know that I say the area, but typically a 1A school is kind of on an island by themselves, and the reason they're 1A is because the next school is 25 miles away. But
Yeah.
is that ever a thing that happens? I don't know. Yeah.
No, we don't ever do any work with, the closest school to us is McCamey. That's 18
Okay.
miles away.
Okay.
They're the closest. They're 2A. However, we have done projects with other schools where we'll pick one of our locations and we'll do a public show from our 1X together. So it'll be like 2 or 3 shows all in one Sunday afternoon.
Right.
And so we bring in our communities together that way.
Okay. And I've got a couple more questions, and I'm gonna get you out of here because from the sound of it, you do too much, and maybe sleep is one of those things you need to catch up on. So, but I'm going to this question. I don't know how to word this question necessarily because I don't want I don't it shouldn't get the wrong impression by this, but I want you to speak on how you budget kind of your like how does that work when you are in charge of the school, likely in charge of or have a say in budget. You're not the bookkeeper, at least I don't think you are. You haven't said you are. Okay, good. That would be crazy. You're everything else, but well, not everything else. I don't want to discount your staff and faculty, but you have to budget for your shows, but you also are the one kind of helping drive the budget. How does that work with how you decide and how you kind of divvy up the funding for a department that you have an invested interest in, but you also have to oversee every other department?
All right. Our fine arts departments are band and theater here. Those are the 2 departments we have. We do have completely separate budgets. They're not shared at all. And so our business manager is really good. Our superintendent is really good. They kind of set it. If there's anything that happens at the end of the year where I feel like we just didn't have any one of us, band or theater or any of the other organizations, just didn't have what they needed, it's something we normally sit down and visit about.
Right.
When we set the budget, I get calls from the business manager, especially if it's something where we might have gone over. As far as our theater budget goes, we have an activity fund as well, and we use our activity fund if we need to offset something.
Okay.
But we are, again, I'm in a blessed district, and so we don't have a high need to ask for things.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, you're really making me second guess some things, but in a good way, in a positive way. But again, just a personal, my own, but again, it's got my name on it, this podcast. So I'm going to get you out of here on this. I'd like to think I typically ask pretty good questions, but I can never mix up my last question very well with certain genres. So I ask college people a certain question. I ask 6A and 5A people a certain question, and then I ask 1 to 4, sometimes 1 to 3A this question. But there's a certain stigma that goes with all these levels, right? No matter elementary, junior, high school, and then high school 1 to 6A, there's a stigma. What is it that you would want to make sure that everyone knows, not just other high schools, not just big schools or other of smaller population? What is it that you would want somebody to know about 1A schools, 1A school theater, that is an influence, a motivational element, something that you just want to make sure that if we were to know one thing about what you guys do and the kind of changes you guys are making to kids' lives and things like that, what is it that you would? And this is a tough one for you because you're in a unique situation as the boss and the director. And go. I'll stop babbling. I was kind of doing that to stall so you could think, but yeah, Go ahead.
I think one of the things that's unique to 1A schools, and you've probably heard it before, is the kids do everything, of course. When it comes to theater, to our 1 act play program, I always like it whenever a kid comes home a few years after graduation and makes a comment to the effect of, I enjoyed One Act because it was where I got to be myself. And we've had kids who were football players, basketball players, to kids who didn't do anything other than One Act. And they all did that in the same location. And that's not something that's always true in other schools. That's something that has to be true in a 1A school, or else you're not going to be successful. Like I said, I was in Valentine. We did gamma rays that year as well, and I had literally the entire high school either as a techie or as an actor with that show. So 1As need everyone to be a part of their program, and 1As get to have everyone be a part of their program.